Hello everybody, in this video we'll be talking about divine archetypes or personalities. Now first of all, what is archetypes? And as we know, archetypes is like a typical example, like a very typical or specific example of a certain person or thing. So like a personality trait, an archetype, a specific trait that's very distinct. And also within psychoanalysis, which is very Jungian, Carl Jung, which the definition would be a primitive mental image inherited from the earliest ancestors of our human ancestors, and to be present in the collective unconscious. So it's like a unconscious. So that's where you can link it with the divine. It's an unconscious. So natural, but by natural law, an archetype, even just whether it's divine or not, an archetype is a natural unconscious state, which you have divine entities of archetypes, personalities, and then the human side. And that's first of all what is an archetype, and that is a quick summary before we get into the video of what and the understanding of the archetype in the most basic of terms, before we get into the divine interpretations and of the archetypes. And as we know, there are different, within the Indo-European gods, there are different archetypes or symbols each gods represent. So we have Odin with frenzy, poetry, wisdom, a traveller. And you have a god like Indra, who's very similar to Thor, sky, lightning, war, something like lust for battle. That could be same with the Greek god Ares. You have Zeus, more like a sky father, so more of a sky father role, like the head of the pantheon, which links back to Deus Peter, the original Indo-European sky father. As we know, the gods represent different roles, as I've said: Indra, Zeus, Odin, Aphrodite, Ares. All represent different roles, but all go back to an Indo-European name from the origins, and they all go back. Their name is Indo-European origins, and they all hold the same meaning still. So Zeus, Deus Petra, the Sky Father. Odin's always meant frenzy, storm, poetry. Indra, war, lightning. Freya to do with fertility. Thor, even Ingi to do with crops and the weather. Ares, again to do with war, but you can see there's a connection, and they're all described. So Indra and Thor are similar. Indra's even described as ginger or even blonde in the Vedas, I'm pretty sure. And Mercury, very similar to Odin, with a hooded cloak. And you can dive a lot into Tacitus, is a description of the Germanic people. And then you can also look into the National Socialist movement, how Odinic it is, even some of Nietzsche's stories. Even the Anglo-Saxons, when they came to England, they claimed direct descendant of Woden, from a direct lineage of kings from line of Wodan. And so this was a clear. They didn't say it for the sake of it. These were genuine beliefs. This is even pre-Viking invasion. This is early Anglo-Saxon era in England, and they claimed a lineage from Odin, from a line of kings. So it's not just metaphysical, but also in a physical sense as well. I do believe each archetype or personality reveals the divine, the absolute divine. It all stems from the absolute transcendent. But there's different roles or personalities, and then that personality is described by giving it a name. So one that lusts for war, let's say Ares or Indra. Okay, they was call it Indra, and then the Indo-European names, it went off to see Northern India, to Southern Europe, Western Europe, Northern Europe, and then there's just different names for the same archetype, for the same personality. Zeus, the Sky Father. Tyr also comes from the same name from Deus Peter. Zeus and Tyr both share the same original name. Odin and Mercury, Indra and Thor, and even Ares, if you will. So there's a very, it's very esoteric. It's very esoteric. Not many will want to understand, or might not interest many, but it's not just spiritual, metaphysical, but it's also within its people. So how Odin led the movement of the National Socialist movement, even before that, There's many accounts of Odin, how, Mercury describes similar. The Romans saw him as very similar to Odin. Almost, it's the Indo-European connection of the gods, but the archetypes reveal the absolute divine and its nature. It's only nature to... that is paganism, really, is to accept the divinity in nature. And the archetypes are only natural. It cannot just happen. It's a very natural process if someone embraces, the lust for war and frenzy like Odin, but also wonders for wisdom and knowledge. That's very Odinic. I believe you're embracing that Wotan archetype that the Germanic people inherently hold naturally within the soul. It's just whether they want to reach out to it. So I'm going to read a passage here. It's based on an observation Nietzsche made, and I'll see if I can put it up on the video for you guys to see. But the quote goes, "The gods of the Greeks were not the models and original principles of ethics, but rather those of human passions, never holy, never more powerful than fate. Thus, belief in them did not trouble the ordinary conscience and was compatible with the love of pleasure. In this sense, the Greek gods were extensions of instinctive biological inclinations. The rule of the gods, can thus be considered superlative, imaginative extensions of the rule of the genes. The pagan gods were, merely extensions of a basic human form and a basic human nature." So, ultimately, the archetypes, so there's many different gods. So Mercury and Odin have the similar or same sort of archetype, how, the Romans or Teslas, saw how similar Odin and Mercury are and how basically the same god. And this, Thor, Indra, this is ultimately just different, so it's the same archetype, but just different cultural interpretations, or the demographics different. So the Norse, and you have the Greeks and the Romans, the Celtics. The archetypes are perennial. These are perennial archetypes. They are, it's perennial, even in the divine plane anyway, in the metaphysical plane. But these are just cultural interpretations of the same archetype, but they are different names because of the demographics. So different languages branch off, so then it'll be a different interpretation of the language. That's about it. But the archetypes and the representation of the word all hold the same meaning. So that's ultimately the divine archetypes, and also the relation between the pro-Indo-European gods and their archetypes. But the archetypes are also, as we said and shown, within the human conscious as well, because, in paganism as well, these are our ancestors in the human conscious as well, not just in the physical plane, but also the spiritual, metaphysical world. Also see it with, in my previous video on, Hitler and Odin, the connection. So I guess you could say it's just the human conscious. It's a collective of the human conscious describing the unconscious, the human unconscious of, what we interpret as divine. And this can be passed through orally, just through actions of humans, because we are descendants of the gods. As I said, in paganism, this is a common law. But it's also, like I said, it's nature. It's natural. This is divine law. This is a natural process. But as I said, in the Jungian philosophy and the psychoanalysis, this is also of the human unconscious. So this is also within us, and it's just our human perception of a way of describing the divine. It's a way of interpreting the divine. So yeah, the archetypes are all the same, just different languages interpreted differently, or different cultures within Europe and the Proto-Indo-European gods, whether it's Hinduism, Germanic paganism, Hellenism, Roman paganism, of describing the same archetype, different descriptions because of different languages and demographics, of interpreting the divine and how the divine came down to us and also within us. So yeah, it's that ongoing connection. So that's the gods' roles ultimately as their archetype / personality, and you can see the connection with the Indo-European gods. You can see that the different languages, but the words for the gods that they name them all hold the same meaning as the Odin and Mercury hold this, Indra and Thor, like I've said, Tyr and Zeus, these hold the same, do you know what I mean? So these are the, I guess you could say, of the human conscious and subconscious. So the metaphysical or, you know, divine plane, and then the physical plane of interpreting the divine. And their roles are of the archetypes to reveal the absolute transcendent, because I believe in one God, multiple faces, and the multiple faces are the different archetypes. And the humans perceive it as an archetype, because that's how it's, you know, dumbed down for our perception. So yeah, that's my thoughts. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and yeah, thank you all for watching.